Hello everyone, today we are going to be talking about loadouts and how to use them and how not to accidentally override them. Loadouts are a new feature that was added in Star Wars The Old Republic's latest expansion, Legacy of the Sith, also known as 7.0. With this update, there also came some very cool changes that allowed you to add a second combat style to your character, otherwise known as a second advanced class that you can switch between. At the moment on this character, I have already added the Assassin and Shadow to my character, so I can now switch between these two combat styles. I can switch between those and my 3 disciplines anytime I am outside of combat and I'm outside an instance. In addition, we also have a new thing called the ability tree that allows you to make decisions within your discipline, and this can be changed anytime you are out of combat. However, with 2 combat styles, that gives you a total of 6 different disciplines to choose between, and this ability tree also gives you a ton of different choices you can make to customize your character. It'll get really difficult to switch between all those options without a way to save them and use them as presets. So what we can use now is the new tool called the Loadouts Tool. At the moment on this character, I am a Shadow, I am an Infiltration Shadow, and in the tree, I have simply just chosen things down the middle. Maybe I have some presets. I haven't looked into it very deeply yet. To choose options on this tree is very easily. You simply click any of them within the line. Each line with 3 abilities is a choice that you can make. When I go into my Loadouts tab, by default, I already have one loadout, and it's default called Loadout 1. We're gonna call it my first loadout, and we can rename it using the little pencil button to rename it. And this is already automatically saving anything that you're doing right here before you ever even touch the loadout system. What's important to know is that the second I start making changes anywhere here, whether I'm switching between combat styles, between disciplines, or between stuff on my tree, it automatically is saving to whatever loadout is selected. Because I only have one loadout right now, it's automatically saving to my first loadout. So let's say I want to be able to save 2 different options when it comes to my tree. I want to choose, in a realistic scenario, I might want to choose some abilities that make me go really fast, give me a lot of maneuverability during some fights, and in other fights, I just want to be able to do more damage. And I could save 2 different loadouts for my Infiltration Shadow with those types of options. In this case, to make things very visual, I'm going to save my first loadout as having all the yellow abilities on the tree and keep things super simple. So when I switch over to loadouts, you'll notice over here actually shows the options that you chose on the tree. So I chose lots of yellow ones and they're saved to my first loadout. Now for my second loadout, for my second one that I want to pre-save, I want to choose lots of blue ones. Okay, so I'm going to go choose all those blue ones right now. Blue. Uh-oh. When I switch over to my saved loadouts, it oversaved my first loadout. It oversaved my yellow ones that I had chosen earlier. So the first important thing to know about loadouts is when you want to create a new loadout, you want to create a new save preset, you must first press create loadout. So I'm going to go back to my first loadout. I'm going to go backtrack a little bit, choose my yellow ones that I wanted for my first one. Ta-da, it's all back to yellow. And I'm going to add a second loadout, which I'm going to call my second loadout. And I'm going to call it blue. Oh, I can't. My second loadout. And for my second loadout, you'll notice it'll have all my choices from before. It kind of like makes a little copy of whatever you had before. And you can now safely start making those choices without overriding your old one. So I've got my blue abilities. Here, we'll change that one too. I've got my blue abilities here. On my first loadout is where I save my yellow ones. To switch between them, I can now very safely switch between them by selecting them and pressing activate. Another important thing to remember is once you have successfully set up 2 different loadouts, You don't really want to touch this anymore unless you want to alter them in some way. So from now on, when I want to switch between yellow and blue, I will always automatically go to my loadout section. I will not click my yellow and blue icons here manually in any way because otherwise I will overwrite them. So once again, here's my second loadout. I've got my blue icons. If I start clicking stuff here, woohoo! Here's some green ones. Green, 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 green. Green, green. It'll overwrite them. Oops. I need to go reselect all my blue ones again. So in short, that's how loadouts work. They automatically save to whichever one is selected here. Anytime you want to create a new one, anytime you want to make any major changes that get saved, please click Create Loadout and add a new one first. There is no way to delete a loadout. However, you can simply rename them if you don't want to use it. Right, do not use, you know. Unfortunately, there's no delete button yet. There is also a copy button, though you don't really need to use it. You just start a new layout and it'll automatically kind of copy whatever you currently have. Now, where things start getting interesting and even more useful is when we're switching between combat styles. So as you may have seen when looking down at my ability bars, which I have absolutely filled up with the most ridiculous things I could find, when I'm switching between my first loadout and my second loadout, there's no major changes. And that's especially because they're both within the infiltration spec. I can also set up a loadout for kinetic defense if I want to go tank or kinetic combat. To do that, the first thing I would do is create a new layout and make sure it's selected. Or, you know, you could reselect an old one. And I'll need this tank. The first thing I do is select a new loadout, and then I'm going to switch over to tank. So now it has properly saved it to that new tank loadout. It's added some new tanking related abilities to my bar. And I can also very easily switch back to infiltration by clicking my other loadout and clicking activate. However, same thing, if I click it on here, it's going to override whichever loadout I have selected. This cool option can also work for combat style, so I can switch between Shadow and Assassin, as those are my two chosen combat styles. If I want to switch over to Assassin, the first thing I'm going to do is create a new loadout called Assassin. First, very important, don't override. And then I'm going to switch over to Assassin using the options. So super cool, you can actually see it changed all of my bars down here when I switched over to Assassin. And let's say for my Assassin, I really want to put Phantom Stride on everything. All over my quick bars, I want to put this over here. I want to put this ball lightning over here. I want to put recklessness on like literally every bar. Hopefully you're taking a little more care than me. I'm super noob. Okay, I'm not. We're just doing this for display. When I'm ready to switch back to Shadow, I'm not going to click this. I'm going to go to my loadouts, I'm going to choose one of my shadow loadouts, and I'm going to press activate. As you can see, it saved all my quick bar locations for my abilities, and when I'm ready to go back to Assassin, I select it from loadouts, press activate, and it has successfully saved where these abilities are, these purple ones that I put down here earlier. So I've noticed a lot of people feel the system is bugged. There did seem to be some bugs. When it first came out, there was a couple of maintenance patches, and I think that fixed the actual bugs. Don't quote me on that. But a lot of people don't understand how the overwrite works, and this should fix that just by remembering to create the loadout first before you start making any major changes here, especially before you switch your combat style. And then use the loadout system to actually switch. Do not use the options to switch once you have created your loadouts. Some especially other cool things that are attached to the loadout system. So it saves your chosen combat style, your chosen disciplines, what you've chosen on the tree, and it saves where your abilities are on your quick bars. It also saves your gear. Sort of. Things get kind of complicated. So when you're working on your gear, first make sure to choose the loadout that you want to work on. So I wanted to work on my Shadow Infiltrations gear first. Woo, awesome. This is what my character was wearing before. This is what their gear is. Where it gets interesting is if you want to gear up a second discipline or you want to gear up a second combat style, which is going to be the most common. You first want to select the second one you want to start gearing up. So I'm going to start gearing up my assassin. I'm going to activate their loadout first. Then I'm going to go into my gear tab. And I'm going to put in the gear that I want to give when I'm an assassin. I apparently chose a bunch of white consular looking clothes. Maybe not the best example, but I really want to show that they're different looking. So now while I am an assassin, in my combat style, I'm an assassin. I'm in my assassin loadout. I geared up as an assassin. I put my other gear in my inventory and left it there. I can now easily switch between being infiltration shadow, and it will switch my gear from my inventory automatically. Switching back to assassin, it's switching to my gear automatically on my character. This is really awesome. The downside is you have to keep the gear in your inventory if you want it to switch. So if you're playing multiple disciplines and multiple combat styles and your inventory is getting really, really full, you might have to keep the gear in your legacy bank and take it in and out. And maybe only keep your most 2-use sets in your inventory, especially because you're going to have 15 different items to switch between. I've only got a couple just for display right now. So just make sure it's in your inventory, and you can use the loadouts to switch if you have properly saved it. And that is a bit of a pain. It would be great if there was some type of gear bank or something like that, but it is a definite improvement from the previous expansion where you had to manually drag everything onto the equipment, especially your relics and your implants would cause you a lot of grief. One more question that I've seen come up about the loadouts is, can you save the way that your user... Oh gosh, that is an ugly outfit, sorry. Can you save how your user interface looks between different loadouts or different combat styles or different disciplines? For example, when I heal, I like to make my operations bar really, really big so I can see my friend's health very easily. But when I'm tanking, I don't care about that at all, and I use an entirely different interface. Unfortunately, that is not currently tied to the loadout system. So just make sure to press Escape, Interface Editor, and make sure to have two different saved options. I personally have one for heals that I can easily switch to, and kind of a default one for all my characters, and also a different one for tanking. So if that's very important to you, you will need to absolutely change your interface editor separately from loadouts, but that is the only thing that you really need to switch separately. When switching loadouts, also keep in mind if you're switching between combat styles, you'll need to have a weapon of that type on hand. So even if you're not really planning to switch armor between disciplines, for example, if you're just playing very casually, you really only need one set of armor, to be honest, you will need a separate weapon. In this specific case, I'm playing an assassin and a shadow, and they use both a double-bladed lightsaber, so they can actually share. But if I decided to play, say, an assassin with a double-bladed lightsaber and use the sentinel as my second one, I would need to keep a second set of single lightsabers in my inventory to easily switch between them. I hope that answers most or all of your questions about the loadout system. This is a really quick look right after the launch, and I've seen a lot of questions come up, so I decided to record a video as quick as I could, as best as I could, about how it works. Don't forget, it saves your combat style, it saves your discipline, it saves your choices on the tree, it saves your ability locations on the quick bars, and it will save your gear if you have it in your inventory. If you want more videos like this that show you how to play the game Star Wars The Old Republic, especially in the new expansion Legacy of the Sith, subscribe to this channel. And if this channel helps you feel like you get to play the game on an equal level to everybody else and understand what the heck is going on and you really appreciate it, visit Swtorista.com/support. I'll see you guys later, and may the Force be with you.